welcome to First. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Mark Eichman and Shirley Min. What's a teacher's worth? As the new school year begins, the issue of teacher compensation is still something many educators and lawmakers think about.
And what is Delaware's small business environment worth? As a new survey questions how well we're doing for startups, progress is being made to streamline regulations a lot of businesses face.
The face of cancer is on display in Rehoboth. The exhibit aims to give radiation treatment an artistic outlet. Stick around for First Experience. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
Schools are back in session across our region. In Delaware, there are many hot-button education issues, standardized tests, charter schools, and redistricting, to name a few. Our first look focuses on another issue, teacher compensation. Avi Wolfman-Aaron has that story from the Delaware Education Desk. Hi, Avi.
Hey, Nichelle. Delaware is in the middle of an ambitious effort to overhaul the way it pays teachers. If successful, this initiative could change policy not only in the first state, but across the country. A sign outside Sussex Technical High School in Georgetown, Delaware, proudly declares that John Sell was the state's Teacher of the Year in 2013. But if you go inside the school on a typical Thursday morning, you won't find John Sell in the classroom. Instead, you'll see him monitoring the hallways in his new role as assistant principal, a job he took just months after winning Teacher of the Year, and nearly a quarter century after he started his life as an English teacher.
What's your tech area? You know, you spend 23 years in one career field, one career path. You think, is there something else I can do? And don't get me wrong, I love teaching English. I mean, that's who I am. I'm an English teacher at heart, probably always will be. But I knew that there was something else out there that I might want to take an attempt and try to do.
In the teaching world, opportunities for promotion are limited. The vast majority of educators get regular pay raises based on years of experience and level of education. That leaves ambitious teachers looking for other ways to broaden their career trajectories.
I always liked and gravitated toward leadership roles, and it seemed a natural fit for me to want to move into or transition into assistant principalship.
Sell, it should be said, is happy in his new role, but his story has become emblematic of what many in Delaware see as a problem. The notion that great teachers must leave the classroom in order to seek new challenges and up their pay.
Our best teachers should be able to stay on the front lines of learning. Now, our 2013 Teacher of the Year, John Sell, is a great example.
Governor Jack Markell referenced Sell's story in his 2013 State of the State address. Markell again raised the issue of teacher compensation in his 2014 speech, and again in 2015. As the governor has pressed the issue forward, he's picked up some unlikely allies.
I would have walked a picket line for a single salary scale 10 years ago because I thought, oh my God, this is the be-all and end-all. This is the way it's been. This is the way it has to be.
Frederica Jenner heads the state's teachers union. Single salary scale refers to the way teachers have always been paid, based on experience and degree status. Jenner liked the old system. It was reliable, predictable, and, well, everyone was used to it. Single salary scale has been the rule in U.S. education since the 1920s. But Jenner has begun to change her mind.
Even the kid at McDonald's has the chance for advancement. They're still working at McDonald's. They're still, doing the tasks that are related to that. But you can move up from fry cook to whatever the next, level would be. So I think that every profession deserves that kind of thing.
Jenner serves on a committee that's trying to develop a system that would create hybrid teacher leaders. These new leaders would take on extra responsibilities and receive extra pay, carving a whole new career path into the old payment system.
I think the people who are already functioning as teacher leaders, either informally or formally, are all for this. They understand, wow, this has real potential.
Other cities such as Denver and Baltimore have implemented systems like this, but Delaware would be the first to try it statewide, and that could set a precedent across the country. John Sell isn't sure whether all this would work, but it does interest him. Perhaps more to the point, it could interest the next John Sell, a fabulous teacher who still loves teaching, but wants to take that next step in his or her career.
Do I miss the classroom? I don't think a day goes by that I don't miss the classroom. Every time I walk these halls, and that's every period, every day, and I'm in and out looking in classrooms, walking in the classroom, standing there for a few minutes, I envy every teacher that I see.
Just this June, a committee formed by Governor Markell issued provisional recommendations for how to change the teacher compensation system. The General Assembly also created 2 new working groups that will now hash out the details of a final proposal.
So what exactly will these new teacher leaders do?
We don't really know yet. That's what the working groups are supposed to be figuring out. We do know there's going to be 2 different levels. There will be like a standard teacher leader. They'll get like extra $5,000 a year. And then there'll be senior teacher leaders who will get about $17,000 extra each year.
Well, just curious, how will they be selected?
So it's going to be like a standard application process, except that you're going to have to meet certain criteria beforehand to prove that you're an excellent teacher. So that might be based on your student test scores, but also observations of you in the classroom.
Okay, so tell me, what are the biggest hurdles facing teacher compensation reform?
The biggest hurdles are time and money. So on the time side, Governor Markell is really gung-ho about this, but he really only has like a year left to really make things happen in his term. Then on the money side, this is supposed to cost an extra $15 million a year because they also want to raise teacher starting salaries to be more competitive with our neighboring states. And we're facing a deficit here in Delaware, so will they have the money and the time to pull all this off?
Interesting. Thanks, Avi. We're going to talk about last week's Smarter Balance test scores later in the broadcast. Avi, we'll see you then.
Coming up on First, women in business is a big focus of the economic picture in Delaware. Is the state doing enough? And the cancer mask as art. First Experience visits a unique exhibit that can help patients both physically and financially.
Delaware Senator Chris Coons is our first person once again this week. Last week we focused on Iran and your support of the nuclear deal, and this week we are just catching up with you, so let's relax a little bit. But I do want to just touch on Iran. Do you feel like the media attention that was given to whether lawmakers were going to approve or disapprove of the agreement, has that elevated your profile in D.C.?
I don't really know whether it's elevated my profile in D.C. It's certainly given me an opportunity, I hope, to communicate with Delawareans and with folks nationally who are paying attention to this. It is a very complicated subject, and there's a lot of both technical details and a lot of security consequences. So my hope is that as we move forward from the vote on the deal and we begin the very difficult work of figuring out how to effectively enforce it, how to live into a safer future, and how to defend our vital ally Israel, that we will actually reach across the aisle and have a more thoughtful, bipartisan approach to it. I'm giving another speech at the Carnegie Endowment in Washington about the policy implications of moving forward with this agreement, and it's my hope that I'll be able to secure some bipartisan support for legislation that will address some of the remaining concerns that I think many senators have.
Okay, fingers crossed. You're kind of racking up the frequent flyer miles going back and forth to Africa. I mean, we're talking days. You're just back from Africa. Tell me about this most recent trip and some of the things that you were doing over there.
Well, in my most recent trip, I led a congressional delegation. We had 3 senators and 7 members of the House at different points. Some members joined us for only a few countries. We went to Senegal, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Gabon, and Cabo Verde. In Gabon, I spoke at the African Growth and Opportunity Act conference, the AGOA conference, and had a chance to advocate for Delaware chicken. It was a chance to meet with our ambassador for trade and with the South African trade minister and ambassador and try and resolve this issue one more time. We met with, the whole delegation met with the presidents of Senegal, of Rwanda, and of Gabon for about an hour, hour and a half, had really good, frank, detailed discussions along with our ambassadors to try and advance some of our concerns around wildlife trafficking, around security issues and counterterrorism, around economic development and our partnerships. We also got to visit a wide range of projects that are funded by American taxpayer dollars and get a sense of which of them are spending those dollars wisely and well and which perhaps not so well. We got to visit an irrigation project the Millennium Challenge Corporation is funding. We got to visit a solar project in Rwanda. Actually, Bono came and spent the day with us there.
I heard there was a picture floating around.
There's a
with you.
picture floating around of
The
me with
YouTube
Bono. We got to visit a project in Ethiopia that DuPont Pioneer is funding that's helping produce highly productive maize. It's a hybrid maize seed corn that'll feed many more Ethiopians. And we got to visit a hospital in Rwanda that's caring for desperately sick HIV infected children. That is an important partnership between American children's hospitals and this sort of elite children's hospital. It's the highest capability hospital they have. The difference between that hospital and the AI Children's Hospital here is just striking. How desperately, how hard those nurses and doctors are working to try and cure children with very limited capabilities there.
Avian influenza is kind of a big thing on your agenda. Let's talk about that. I know that in Delaware you are meeting with students, university community, people in the university community about how to address it. How bad is this issue?
Well, this is the first major outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza in the United States in years. It's bad in two different ways. First, it leads to whole flocks of birds having to be put down. So millions of birds have already been lost in the Pacific Northwest and in the Midwest. To be clear, high-path AI has not come to the East Coast at all yet.
Okay.
But because it is spread from wild birds to birds in flocks, and those wild birds migrate up and back to the Arctic, and the birds that are about to begin migrating back down through Delaware are up in the Arctic now with birds from the Midwest who are carrying high-path AI, there's a very real risk it'll be brought to this area later this year. It would allow other countries, like South Africa, to impose a ban on importing any American poultry that would last for several years. So it has consequences immediately and consequences in the long term.
Looking for an update on where things stand, we're changing gears here with the VA hospital in Delaware. Have you checked in with them recently about how they're addressing this ongoing backlog with its patients?
I do think they've made real progress in reducing the backlog in terms of the timeliness of access and the access to more specialized or expert physicians. That's at the main VA here. One of the unresolved areas where I think we need to keep staying on them to make progress is in the CBOCs, the community-based outreach centers that are downstate, where access to specialty medicine is actually difficult in the broader community, not just in the VA-served community. And so we need to keep working to make sure that a broader range of physicians and specialties are readily available, and to stay on top of resolving the investigations that are, I think, not yet fully complete and resolved in an appropriate and thorough way.
How often are you checking in with them?
Well, I've got staff that are handling veterans cases regularly, me personally about once a month.
Okay. I want to talk about Donald Trump. He's leading in a number of polls.
Yes.
Does that make him a formidable candidate?
Well, I mean, what makes a formidable candidate is who Americans are willing to vote for. So if he actually has a significant double-digit lead in Iowa, I guess he's a formidable candidate. I personally, he doesn't speak to me as a candidate, but I guess Americans are inspired by his sort of bold, dramatic flair. He's certainly fun to watch on Celebrity Apprentice, but this is a presidential election, not a reality TV show, and there are some striking inconsistencies in his positions, things that he's publicly supported in recent years and that he's now supporting that really don't reflect the Republican Party platform at all. So it was interesting to hear him say he wants to raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans. There's no Republican in the Senate that's advocating raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans, but candidate Trump has been saying that recently. Some of his positions on immigration are, I think, startling. Some of the emotion behind it and some of what I think people are hearing. I'm looking forward to his releasing actual position papers when I think some of the emotion of this will settle down, and then we'll get into the more serious discussion about what would he actually do as president.
And real quickly, would you support Biden running for president, Joe Biden?
Yes, I've called the vice president and said to him I was honored to campaign for him in Iowa in 2008, and I'd be honored to do it again. I know Secretary Clinton well, Senator Clinton. I think she was a seasoned and capable secretary. I think she was a great senator and would be a terrific president. but as a longtime admirer of the Vice President, I think he is our strongest voice for the middle class. I think he understands and connects with the working people of America. And I think he has more experience in foreign policy and national security than anybody who could run. So I'm waiting to hear from Joe, and I'm eager to make sure that he has the time to make the decision that's really right for him and his family.
Okay, Senator Coons, great having you. Thank you so much for being our first person this week.
If you want to know Senator Coons' reasons for supporting the Iran nuclear deal, then you'll want to see last week's First Person. It's available on WHYY.org/first. All our shows can be seen there. Check it out.
Delaware students took the Smarter Balanced State Assessment for the first time this year. Earlier this month, we got the results from the landmark test. Here to help us analyze them is our education reporter, Avi Wolfman-Arendt. Welcome back, Avi.
Pleasure to be here, as always, Nichelle.
Yeah. So tell me about this new test and what makes it different.
So Smarter Balance was given for every student in grades 3 through 8 and again in grade 11 in the subjects English and math. What makes it different is that it tests how well students have mastered the Common Core state standards, which are a new, tougher set of standards that Delaware adopted in 2010. Here's how Secretary of Education Mark Murphy explained it.
These assessments that our children took are harder. The students are answering more complex questions, they are solving more complex problems, and we can expect initially that some of our students are not going to meet that proficiency level. It's a different test. It's a harder test. It does not mean that our students learned any less.
So how did Delaware do? Have our students mastered the standards?
Well, the short answer to that would be no, they have not. Only about half were deemed proficient in English. Less than 40% were deemed proficient in math. The state has sort of tried to spin this by saying, A, the test was supposed to be really hard, and B, that students did better than expected in a way. Here's how Governor Markell explained it.
Although we raised the bar considerably, our students performed better than anticipated. The estimates for how our students would perform were made based on the largest field test in our nation's history, during which more than 4 million students participated.
So, Avi, do you buy that response?
I think to some extent you have to. No, we never had this test before, so it's hard to know whether these are good numbers or bad numbers. I think by the same token, though, it's really impossible to claim some sort of victory based on these new numbers.
And I'm guessing the administration tried that?
They did try to do that. They pointed out that Delaware students did better than they were expected to based on projections, which were in turn based on these field tests or sample tests given out last year.
So is the future promising?
Well, it kind of sounds promising based on that, right? But the truth is that that's also a little misleading. 18 different states took this test. So far, 8 have reported scores, including Delaware, and everyone is doing better than these projections. So to say we did better than projections, well, it's not a whole lot there. If you compare us to the other states, which is really probably the better comparison, we come out around middle of the pack. So that's really where we are right now.
Okay, interesting. Thanks, Avi. We'll be following to see how kids actually do this year.
Those educational opportunities could apply to the businesses of tomorrow. Delaware often boasts of its business-friendly environment, but a recent American Express Open survey questions where the first state ranks in terms of helping women. Some women say the state might not be perfect, but it does have a lot to offer. Capital One, DuPont, Trump Casino, just a few of the corporations that call Delaware home. With names like these, you'd think Delaware would be a good place to launch a business. American Express Open doesn't see it that way. The company ranked Delaware as one of the worst states for women-owned businesses. Their findings are based on the percentage of growth of women-owned firms after the recession.
I've heard complaints from business owners, small and medium-sized business owners, women and business owners of all types, that in the recovery, access to capital, particularly for startups, has been difficult.
Senator Chris Coons says efforts to help connect business owners to capital are in the works.
There's a variety of different programs by the Chamber, by the university, and by the SBA to make sure that women have access to capital, have access to mentorship, have access to support to make entrepreneurship easier and more possible for them.
Tanya Y. is benefiting from some of those efforts.
I'm the president founder of Delaware Green Mattress Disassembling and Recycling, LLC.
The Wilmington University grad wanted to utilize her master's degree in environmental stewardship, so she turned a class project into a business. Tanya admits the process from conception to creation was challenging, but enlightening. Her biggest challenge? Financing.
Now I'm at the point of how do I find funding so I can get a building, so I can get trucks.
Tanya got a helping hand when she won the Great Dames Remarkable Ideas competition last year.
In addition to the grand prize of $25,000, she also has 2 business mentors, but she's met with quite a few people all over the state who have offered to support her because they love her idea.
Sharon Hake, co-founder of Great Dames, an organization that fosters and supports women leaders and entrepreneurs, says her organization came up with the idea because she was often asked to judge business pitch competitions, but there was something lacking.
I showed up and I noticed it was all men at these Shark Tank type events. There were very few, if any, women pitching their ideas. And it bothered me, because I knew from experience that there were a lot of brilliant women in this space.
So Sharon tapped her resources and got involved, inviting other women business owners to help out too. Donna Duffy is the CEO and founder of 3E Marketing Solutions, one of those women-owned businesses. Duffy's company is coaching Tanya on how to market her business. Donna, who has created 3 businesses in Delaware, says there are numerous reasons why Delaware is a good state for women startups.
I found Delaware to be such a receptive state to build ideas and to build a business and to connect with other people who were in the same situation that I was. It's a wonderful state for growing a business.
Federal and state organizations are also on board, helping to meet the needs of new businesses.
I've met with John Fleming, our SBA State Director. I've hosted Maria Contreras-Sweet, the National SBA Director, and we spent a day specifically focusing on this question, on how SBA loans and SBA matchmaking and relationships can help accelerate entrepreneurship, in particular for women in Delaware.
Both Donna and Sharon emphasize that resources are plentiful here.
Delaware has fantastic resources. We have them on our website. The Delaware Small Business Development Center, Nauvoo, Delaware. There's a brand new women's business center that's just been opened up, SCORE, Delaware. There are so many wonderful, wonderful, wonderful resources that are available to women entrepreneurs in Delaware. It's a great place to start a business.
Both women emphasize that cultivating business relationships is key to any successful business. They add, since Delaware is so small, startups can benefit from the close relationships of other business owners to then help spread the word about their new ventures.
There's a psychological and financial burden for some people going through cancer treatments. Cookie Kirkston wanted to put her artistic talents to work after her cancer treatment, so she created Courage Unmasked. It's a joint effort with Beebe Hospital and the Rehoboth Art League. First Experience shows us how treatment with a cancer mask can be decorative.
This exhibit is Courage Unmasked, Rehoboth Beach. The idea of the event is to raise money for people who have head and neck cancer. Anyone that has head and neck cancer has to have a radiation mask. A mask is molded to you, and the mask is used to bolt you down to the table during the radiation so that the rays go exactly where they're supposed to go. I'm an artist. In the middle of my radiation, I said, what do people do with these masks when they're finished with them? And they said, well, some people leave them here, some take them home, some throw them in front of the car and run over them. And I said, how would you feel if I asked my friends who are artists if they would be willing to decorate masks, and we'll auction them off and raise money for people with head and neck cancer in financial need. And that's how it all started. What happens is there's a lot of expenses that are not covered by insurance. The money that's raised here will stay here, and it will go to patients at the Tunnel Cancer Center, which is Beebe Tunnel Cancer Center, who are in financial need. the money is raised here, so that's where the money will be kept. I got a list of artists that I knew. Someone else sent me a list, a page and a half of artists and their emails, and I sent out a letter telling the artists what I would like to do, and I just was amazed at the response I got. I had to really turn people away. The artists don't know the patient. Most of them don't know a lot about head and neck cancer, and neither did I. You know, when I first was diagnosed with it, I had no idea that I wore a mask or all these other things. I was told, oh, it's a good kind of cancer. So, you know, I didn't realize how bad it can be. I was lucky. I didn't need dental prostheses. I didn't need to be fed through my stomach. I didn't have awful mouth sores, and these are a lot of the things that most people suffer from and need money for. I just am amazed at what the artists have done with these masks. They all start with the same thing, and they end up with their interpretations of it are just incredible. I'm passionate about it because I feel so lucky that I'm okay. It makes me feel good, and I've helped a lot of people.
The great part of this story, Cookie's cancer-free. She wants to take Courage Unmasked nationwide. Right now, the proceeds go to help those being treated for cancer at BB. These masks will be auctioned off on September 19th. Now, if you'd like to know more, go to 9114hnc.org to learn more.
Next week on First, a glimpse at some Delaware groups who are getting ready to sing for Pope Francis when he comes to Philadelphia, and some Newcastle nuns are showcasing their special artwork.
That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Avi Wolfman-Arndt, Shirley Min, and Mark Eichman, I'm Nichelle Polston. Have a good week.